Welcome to Free Burn. This is Matt Ballard, your host. This is the podcast where we talk all things mental and behavioral health in the first responder community. Real life firefighters, police officers, EMTs and paramedics, clinicians, and doctors. It's time we have the real conversation and burn the stigma behind first responder mental health, one podcast at a time. Welcome back, folks, to Free Burn 2023. This is Matt Ballard. I am your host. And today we have with us Billy Vest, his Waxahachie Fire Department captain. Currently, he's 18 years in. Past 5 years as a captain. He is their peer team lead. And, welcome, Billy. Excited to
What's
have
happening,
you on, brother. Not much.
How are you?
Man. I'm doing good.
Awesome.
So let's kick this off, man. Let's start talking about some mental health and behavioral health in the fire service. Quick question. How does the exposure to traumatic events and critical incidents affect the mental health of our firefighters? And what resources do y'all currently have available to them guys and gals?
Well, I guess we can go back a couple years. A couple years ago, we didn't have anything.
Right.
It was really just kind of calling our chaplain and having a chat, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't disagree with that, but I also think that trauma and the things we see are sometimes can need a little more specific attention. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah.
So, you know, as far as me, trauma, kind of same as your story, kind of just built up over the years, and I never really thought it was coming. You know, I was a pretty tough guy, and I had some stuff stack on top of each other, and started having some weird issues, or symptoms. So, started thinking about mental health, like something's up, and there needs to be some policies put in place. So, I think it's very important that we pay attention to mental health and get rid of the stigma. As far as our program, we've put together some stuff. We have a small peer team. What that does is kind of helps, instead of going straight to therapy or a counselor, a peer team can kind of watch for signs and symptoms. And,
Yep.
there's always a guy you don't want to talk to. So if you
Sure.
got more than one peer team member, someone might like talking to someone else a little more than others. So
Yeah.
we like to think we're just a big loving family, but it's not always that way. So
No, I know better than that. I know how it can get sometimes. We are a big loving family, but sometimes it can get.
we
That big
definitely
loving
love on
family.
each other different.
Yes, we definitely do. So let's talk a little bit about, man, your like, if you want to dive into a little more of your personal experience, like how did it start for you? Like, was it a certain event that triggered you, or was it just something over time?
It was really more cumulative. And now that I've been through some therapy and some counseling, it's interesting how far back it goes.
Yeah.
So, listening to your story, you had a great family, and, it was awesome. All was well, and had some trauma with your mom and your dad and stuff like that. But for me, I was raised in Mesquite, Texas. So over there in your neck of the woods off Lake June.
Neck of the woods, man. Yeah.
Yeah. Lake June, boy.
Not where I live, but where I work.
Yeah. Yep. I hear you. Yeah. So growing up there, I was a minority in my school and also in my neighborhood. No big deal, had a good time, but my dad was in a pretty well-known biker gang. I won't mention any names, but
okay,
lots of drugs and some hardcore stuff coming through our house.
Right.
Then kind of fast forward, when I was 9 years old, me and my mom were actually driving down the highway, I-20, and we exited and stopped at a stoplight, and I looked in the truck next to me. It was a dump truck, and it was my dad. I'd never met my dad until I was 9.
Really?
So it was weird. I looked, I'm like, hey, is that my dad? And she's like, oh, yeah. And I'm like, you mind, maybe if I could meet him? That'd be cool. So with that, I got to meet my dad. He lived in Stephenville, Texas. So that's that very next summer, I just went and stayed with my dad the whole summer.
Yeah.
he started coming down after that summer. We got trying to build a relationship, and I was racing BMX bicycles in Mesquite, and he would come down during the week and take me to the BMX races. And then he would drive back to Stephenville.
Yeah.
Well, one night he come and got me. Went to the races, come back home, and my stepdad, which was the biker, had a bat and was destroying everything in the house. We had tons of. He was really into exotic fish, so fish aquariums. There was fish, glass, water, you name it, everywhere. So I'm like, "What's going on?" He said, "Well, your mom left." So my mom left. Didn't see her for. Didn't talk to her for months. She never got in touch with me, So my dad took me back home naturally. So I went from Mesquite, and you know what Mesquite's like.
Oh yeah.
And then I don't know if you've been to Stephenville, but it's night and day. Yeah. In Stephenville, they were sleeping with the screen door shut with a little latch,
right,
little hook on the door, which totally blew my mind. Yeah, it was definitely a culture shock.
I bet.
So, not to get too far into that, but that's kind of, I guess, where trauma started, and trust and just mental things happening there.
Yep.
Fast forward, I'm in a new life, a new town. Basic kid things happen, right. Drugs, all that kind of stuff. That's kind of that. But then I get into the fire service, and ran a major accident out on one of our roads towards the lake, and that was my first real trauma where there was a lot of trauma.
So what year did you start? 18 years would be what year? What year did you start?
I started in 05.
05, okay.
Yeah.
I went to Waxahachie school, so I'm not great at math. You know how that goes.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. So anyway, that was my first trauma. That's probably been 10, 12 years ago. I mean, a real big trauma that really kind of stuck with me. Lost some sleep over it.
I think I know that.
I actually had another guy here that we were talking to. I talked back and forth to, and he was the same way. He's losing some sleep.
Yeah.
Well, fast forward a week, go on a drowning at the lake. Pull this lady out of the lake, and she looks just like my mom. Mm-hmm. So it was like, whoa, it really, it was crazy.
Yeah.
Fast forward a week, I go on a suicide at the lake on Easter. So those three stacked together, I lost, like three weeks. I just couldn't sleep.
Yeah.
And then I started feeling like someone was watching over my shoulder. So I got real paranoid, real like jumpy.
Yep.
So that's where I started recognizing that, like, the buildup of those, like, do physically and mentally affect you.
Yeah.
So, you kind of push it to the side, keep working, years go by. Then I realized when you run a trauma, it brings it back. You're good for a while, and then you hit that trauma and you're like, oh, not sleeping again, kind of brings it all back.
Yep.
So did that for years, man, just kind of pushing it to the side, pushing it to the side. And what pushed me over is we had a murder-suicide here in town, and it was a mom and a kid and her kid.
Yep.
And that one, it'll still get me going. Give me a second.
Those ain't easy, bro. I know.
Yeah. So that one really triggered me that I really needed to get some help. So I called up a resiliency program that I found, got in touch with Brenda Tillman, which is an amazing lady.
Yes.
And
yes.
Started working through that process. So it's still tough, but that's kind of in a nutshell where I'm at with trauma.
I don't think they ever go away, bro. It's just we learn to deal with them a little bit differently, right?
Yep.
I mean, I know that a lot of my traumas are I still think about stuff, dude. And same with you, dude. It's been the stuff that I've ran on over the years. And I think it's that accumulation of things. It's not just one specific call. It's an accumulation of just doing life in
Yep.
general. And then those bad calls happen, right? And they stick to you. They might not affect you at that time, but something will bring it back, whether it be a smell or something you saw or you heard or whatever. Those little triggering events. That's what it is for me.
Yep.
Sounds
Yep.
like it's pretty familiar to what you're going
Well,
through too.
also,
It
when
did go through.
when you live in the town you work in, everything's a trigger. You
Yeah.
drive through town, you know how the same as I do. You can just point at every house, everything that's happened. You still remember it and see it. So
I can go to work, like drive to Balch Springs where I work at, and just 30-minute drive. And as soon as I hit the city limits, it's like on the highway, I can start recalling every wreck that we've ran, especially the traumatic ones, right? Where there was a death involved or just bad wrecks. I know exactly what you're talking about there. It's crazy how that happens, but it does happen.
it is.
Yeah.
Yep.
You mentioned Brenda Tillman. You want to talk a little bit about how your peer program got kicked off and how you got involved with the readiness group? I think at the time it was called Firefighter Resiliency Group.
Yep. Yep. It's called resiliency. Well, I'm trying to think how. Trying to think of how I got in touch with her. Anyway, I can't remember, but yeah, once that last call happened, I just really started wanting to get involved and figure out how to put something in place.
Yeah.
I grew up pretty rough, so I felt like I was a tough guy. So when all this started happening, I was blown away. I'm like, I don't even understand how this
What the hell's
happened.
going on?
How I'm where I'm at.
Yeah.
And so I went through every program that they had. I've been through the FBI training with Joe Collins. Anything I could get my hands on, trying to start a peer program.
Right.
Me and her are still really good friends. The Project 360 videos you've probably seen. That we kind of collaborated on that to get that going. And I still haven't interviewed on there because I can't make it through one.
Right.
So I'm not near a tough guy as I used to be.
Yeah. I think I am too until stuff starts popping again. And then I'm like,
I'm telling you, man.
I'm not so tough. Yeah.
Yeah. One thing with that last call, I remember coming down from the parking garage and my wife was standing on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
Because she's heard it and seen it on Facebook. She knew what was going on in town.
Yep.
That was pretty awesome. So
Yeah.
it gets me choked up.
Yeah. Those are the ones that are hard to work through and just they suck. There ain't no other way about it.
Yeah, they suck. But
Especially
yeah,
when
that's
involving kids and stuff. It's tough.
Yeah.
There you are.
Make sure my battery's going here. I'm on my phone here, so make sure my
if you need to plug in,
battery's
plug in.
charging here. You're good. Anyway, so yeah, just been plugged in with Brenda. She's coached me a lot. We've been through some debriefings together, which are all they're all always hard to hear, but they actually kind of help you process your own things too. So it's always good to see a room start with their arms crossed, and before you leave, everybody's open. So
I've personally seen that, man.
It's pretty wild.
It's wild. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if you remember this, dude, but like the last time that I went through my stuff, I just happened to pop in and see you at the parts store. Remember that?
O'Reilly's.
And then that's how, And we had a little conversation that day. I was right in the middle of my junk, dude. I don't know if you realized that. You probably did, but that information that you gave me that day kind of set me on a path, man. That's when I got in touch with Brenda Tillman and met her. And that's where our peer program kind of kicked off, So thank you for that, brother. I don't know if I've ever told you that, but that you played an instrumental part of where we are today. So
my pleasure, man.
I appreciate that. We need guys like you and me and, to get out there and say, hey, enough is enough. We need to change this crap, right?
Yep.
So I just wanted to throw that in there. I didn't know if you knew that or not, but yeah. So what kind of advice, man, would you give, a brother fireman or a sister firefighter that is going through some mental health problems? Like, what would you tell them? What kind of help can they seek to get help?
Well, first, having some knowledge now, it's been helpful to be able to sit down. I've got 2 or 3 guys here that I've would say mentored, but kind of coached through some pretty serious stuff.
Yeah.
I'm glad I was prepared for that. I'm not near as prepared as I should be, but I feel like I've got a pretty good foundation on what to say and not to say, and kind of how to guide that conversation,
Yeah.
and watch for those things that may need to go up the chain to more of a professional level.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's important to watch your health, because I think me and you both, it snuck up on both of us.
Yeah, it did.
And
for sure.
You always hear that them skeletons in the closet, and think it's just a myth that some tough guy made up, or whatever.
Right.
But it's true. It's accumulative, and it happens.
Yeah.
So for me, I think awareness would be is very important. So a rookie year, especially, I think we need to implement some kind of program to educate the firefighter and the family on things to look for, and what this process is going to look like over, the next 10, 15, 20 years of their career, what to look for. So yeah, I think your health is very important, and your mental health. As much as they want us physically fit, you have to be mentally fit. And sometimes I think the mental aspect gets pushed to the side.
Well, it's that stigma, I think, behind it. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Like you start
And it
dealing with
did.
issues. Yeah.
Yep. When we first started this, there's some of them. There's still some of them guys, and I get it. Some of them deal with it that way. That's fine. But don't give the other guys, a hard time if they don't.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. So, how can fire departments and EMS agencies better support the mental health needs of their firefighters? Are there any policies and practices that you would recommend, like bringing into the peer programs or our departments?
Yeah, I think, like I said, I think the stigma is the big part. I think if you can get your administration to buy in on it, that's your first thing.
Yeah.
Is educating the administration on where we're at today. Whether you go to the programs and then come back and educate them, maybe you don't just rely on them to get the information and put a program together. Maybe you got to go out and kind of get that going and come back and educate them. And our administration is really good. You run into some things like how do you make someone do a debriefing if they don't want to? Yeah. Or what call really determines whether we need a debriefing or not. Or, when do we take them out of service? When do we don't?
Do y'all currently have policy that deals with that stuff, or not?
We really don't. We really do it more of a case by case. If I'm on duty and I hear of a child drowning or a fatality, car accident, I'm listening to the radio. So if I hear something like that, I'll call that station and I'll get them to pull the guys out of service for an hour or so, and then kind of play it by ear on depending on what the call is. We've had a call, took them out of service. The next call ended up being the same thing. Mm-hmm. So it's like, okay, like we might have to go to a different level of like, what do we do today? So, yeah, and the chief's been really good. He hasn't been to the classes, but he's really good at calling and saying, hey, what do we need to do? Like how do we need to address this? He doesn't make anyone do anything they don't want to, and I get that. Yeah. Sometimes I feel like we should all just go through it, because a lot of us will say we don't need to, but we really would. If we were made to go to it, we might get something out of it. Yeah. Because of that stigma, Yeah.
I know for us, man, we're just now starting to get our peer program built up, right? And and obviously readiness group is doing our oversight. So
Mm-hmm.
we were lucky enough to be able to get some of that money from Dallas County and fund some of our peer program stuff.
Yeah.
But we're just now starting to kick it off to where we like it's. I don't think it's really bled off onto the other shifts yet. It's starting to, but like bad calls and stuff like that, to where
Yeah.
like I know of some of our guys on my shift just recently happened had a bad call. I don't remember if it was a pediatric call or something, but it might have been a suicide or something like that they had ran on. And I just checked in with them and was just like, it was off. We were off duty, called them up and said, "Hey, are y'all good? Let's do a quick diffusing." In my mind, I'm
Yeah.
thinking diffusing. They don't know what's going on. They don't know it's a diffusing, but
Yeah.
I did a quick diffusing with them just to make sure that they were good and just followed back up with them later on. And I
Yeah.
think that's where it starts, man. It's,
Right.
guys that have had that training and realize the need in it and can follow through, the next day or on shift or whatever, man. And
Yeah.
just, make sure everybody's good. Knowing your people,
Right.
knowing your
Yeah.
people.
And I think a lot of times they hear debriefing,
They freak out.
it's really a defusing.
Yeah.
It's just a
Yep.
real low key, let's just talk about it. And they have a picture in their mind that we're going to sit in a circle and talk. So, yeah, a diffusing is.
It's that kitchen table talk, right?
Oh, yeah.
They're calling it
Yeah.
defusing now, but it's kitchen table talk, what we've been doing for
Exactly.
years,
Yep.
just getting with your
Yep.
buddies and saying, "Hey man, that call sucked," or,
Yep.
whatever it may be, just getting that off of you. Very important
Yep.
to do. So,
Yeah. And it has, like you said, it's starting to trickle into your other shifts. Here, it was really, people would hear like, what's going on? What are they doing? We got something going on or some kind of program. And over time, they've kind of figured out, oh, we do have something we can lean on.
yeah. Yeah.
I've gotten several guys that have come to me and gotten them in counseling or marriage counseling or whatever it may be, because they know that we have something they can go to and that it's confidential. It's
Yeah.
and that's I think that's in one of them questions is anything you say to someone in our peer program is 100% confidential.
Right.
Unless you are going to harm yourself,
Yep.
it's all confidential. After it goes there, it's got to go to a different level.
Yeah.
But
Same with
and the
ours.
same with the insurance. When these insurance companies send this in, they're supposed to tag a number to it, a case number, not a name.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Because a lot of people are afraid to have their name tied to this counseling, that they're going to be unfit for duty. But if you go through the right route, it doesn't work that way.
Right.
Your name's not tied to it.
Yep.
So
I dealt with a lot of that when I was off, man. I was thinking, who's going to know, kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? Insurance companies. Is the city going to know that I'm going through these struggles? And you're right. Everything is pretty much. It is confidential unless it comes to the point to where you're ready to either threaten suicide or harming somebody else, and things kind of change with that. But obviously you got to do what you got to do to help that person out. But yeah. Back to readiness group. So y'all were part of that. What was it? 10 cities.
yes.
And y'all lost funding. So for people that don't know, there was 10 cities under a grant that was oversight for these peer programs. And I'm not going to name all the cities, but they were in the Waxahachie area. I'll just say that.
Yep.
And you can correct me if I'm wrong on anything, but that funding ran its course. I think it was a 4-year grant? Isn't that correct?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we got in kind of on the tail end of it.
Yeah. So that funding ran its course. Grant went through. It's done. What are y'all doing now? Have y'all got funding through the city for y'all's peer program, or what's going on? Touch on that.
So at the moment, we don't have funding yet, but we are trying to implement it into the budget instead of depending on a grant and then grants falling through. We want something that's always going to be there. So that's where we're at now. We're trying to get funding through our through our budget through the city to where it's just always there. So it's funding itself.
How is the city? How is the buy-in with the city as far as what do they think about the peer program and stuff like that? Are they bought in on it, or?
I haven't talked to anyone personally. Dusty's been doing all that, but our city's, it's a pretty awesome city. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't see anything negative about that. We don't need that.
Right.
You know, our city managers, is really good about trusting the fire department that we're not wasting money and things like that. So we got a pretty good relationship with them, city council, all that good stuff. So
Yeah. Cool. Our city's pretty much the same way. I mean, I think they're ready to move forward. Obviously, we got that money from Dallas County, but at some point in time, that money's probably going to go away, right? I mean,
yeah,
we have it for 2 years, so that money obviously will go away. So we're going to have to find either grant funding or the city's going to have to step up.
yeah,
And,
yeah. And what happens is, I had a couple of guys that were in counseling, and when that funding stopped,
yeah,
they're in the middle of stuff and they can't go. So we were having to push it through, and Brenda was covering it somehow, making exceptions and getting these guys through to where they needed to be because she's got such a passion. She's not just going to leave you high and dry. So
no,
But yeah, when you got them grants, they can go away at any time. So
yeah, okay. Let's talk a little bit about what role does the family support and communication play in maintaining mental well-being of firefighters? How can loved ones be more involved in the process? That's a good one.
That's a good one.
Family.
Yeah. It takes, man, that I guess this is what I was talking about with educating these guys early.
Right.
Because my wife, over the years, it took 10 years, 7 to 10 years before she actually could see things that are different when I come home.
Right.
So now she's so good at knowing that when she can just feel it,
My wife's the same way, dude.
Yeah, it's crazy. So, and I actually do have if I ever group text from work and I say, I love you guys, that's kind of our, like everybody knows, okay, things are going to be different for the next few days or so. Something's happened at work.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, my wife having to just figure it out, or we figuring it out the hard way, is not the way to do it. It's. I mean, we've been down the road of almost divorcing. I don't know how many times, because she just doesn't understand,
Right.
And I don't understand. And for years, I didn't even know I was different. I never knew that I was changing. I woke up one night, and you can ask Brenda this story. Because we thought about doing writing a book called "Why Are You Such an Asshole?" So, I woke up at 3 a.m. My wife's not in bed, so I go looking for her. She's in the front yard crying. I'm like, "What's the deal?" And she's like, "You're just such an asshole. I can't live with you anymore."
Right.
And I'm like, "I feel the same. Like I haven't changed any." Well, usually you don't feel it as much as your family feels it. They see it. I know I'm going down a rabbit trail, but the interesting
keep going,
thing
bro.
is
That's good stuff. People need to hear that.
So I got home one morning after I forget what call it was, but it was a big call. So I come home and get on the tractor. I'm not thinking anything different than I just got work to do.
Yeah.
So I got on the tractor in the morning, got off of it at dark, ate, went to bed, got on it the next morning, got off of it at dark. No big deal. And, my wife says, "Hey, you realize you've been on the tractor for 2 days and haven't talked to anybody."
Are you serious, bro?
Yeah. I'm like, holy crap, I have. I'm just trying to just function. But for her, she's looking, going, this guy's like on a whole nother planet right now.
Right.
Because I come home and I don't even realize it. She realizes it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, family is, it's funny because I see these new guys that's been here 2 or 3 years going through the same issues and conversations and dealing with the same things at home that I've already dealt with.
Yep.
Because it's just a process of being a fireman, man. It's different. Your wife has got more responsibilities. You're gone. It's just different. And then, she thinks you're at work playing video games, and,
Oh yeah.
it's just not that way.
No, it's not.
So,
What's
so
crazy?
family is big,
Yeah.
big, big, big.
Yeah. It's like for me, it was the most important thing, right? Next to the Lord, obviously. But
Yep.
those for me go hand in hand, family and the Lord. But
Yep.
if it would have been for my family, dude, I mean, I talked about that in my my first episode. It just, things could have been a lot different, right?
Yep.
If I wouldn't have had them there in that family support, it could, I don't even like to think about it, honestly. I really don't.
Yeah. Yep.
Thank
Yeah.
God that I had that support there, and, you know, it was pivotal in my healing process for sure.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and something else, I heard you talking about the new guys coming in, right? So, I don't know if this is the same for you, but for me, dude, it's like I can see younger guys in the service now, and you can almost point out the ones that are going through crap, right?
Yep.
Because of the way that they act or things that they may do. And you just want to shake those guys and say, man, you got to turn right now. Because
Yep.
if you keep going down that same path, it's going to happen to you. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So it's just weird how that happens. I guess you just learn over time, whether it's through therapy or just life lessons or whatever, and you start pinpointing people that you can almost see it on them, the struggles that they may be going through.
Well, what's interesting is you take these old heads when you got hired, right? No air packs, fire breathing dragons,
Yep.
tough guys, right? And they were tough, but now they're on the backside of their careers at 30, 35 years,
Mm-hmm.
and they never talk to any of these guys. It's always been tough guy, right? So now we're left dealing with the guys that are coming up under the tough guys. And obviously the tough guys had problems because now we got suicide rates that are through the roof for these guys, right?
Yeah.
So we're realizing these tough guys, they're tough, but now look, now we're having suicide rates that are through the roof. So these young guys are coming up being the same way because they couldn't share anything with these guys.
Yeah.
So it's very important, and you can see it. Like you said, you can see it. And we've got to – I mean, I'm still a tough guy.
Oh, I am too,
Don't I
bro.
look like a tough guy?
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
But a tough guy doesn't always mean, not having any feelings.
Can't reach out for help. Yeah.
Right. You can still be a tough guy and have some emotion and want to see people do well.
Sure.
And for me, with the childhood I had and the life I've had, it's hard for me to just to sit back and watch whenever I know I can help,
Yeah, I'm the same way. I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
So how do you personally find balance between the demands of being a fireman or a captain and your personal life, preventing burnout and just maintaining your overall mental and physical well-being?
I have 2 race cars, so that helps. First of all is believing there's a higher power, putting God first and knowing that he's not going to give me anything that I can't take. He's not going to, he's not trying to crush me. He's just trying to help me grow. And I think through all these things that we've gone through has helped. I look back at my childhood and I used to be really bitter about it.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm not so bitter about it because it's made me who I am.
Right.
And I can relate to so many different people than I would have if I hadn't been through it.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's made me the person I am. I feel like I'm successful. Excuse me. So putting God first and also have, I have a racing business. So I sell racing parts to across the nation, to New Zealand, Australia, Canada, you name it.
What's the name of that racing business?
Shameless plug, Dirt Defender Racing Products.
What is it again?
Dirt Defender Racing Products.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Awesome,
so,
brother.
So anyway, I race. I spend a lot of time in the shop when I'm at home. Still got, I have 5 kids from the same lady. We've been married 19 years. So she lets me do some work in the shop, but I still got to juggle my children. I did put a pool in my shop so that we can swim in the shop and work on stuff. Yeah. So anyway, I do a lot of racing. This year's probably going to be my last year, but that's kind of my outlet. It's funny because it's such an extreme sport, but when I get in the seat, we get lined up and we're sitting, we call it the shoot before we go out. We could be sitting there 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Right. That's where I fall asleep and get the best sleep ever. Really? Man, I sit in the race car. I'm just sitting there and there's no one bothering me. It's just peaceful. And every time I fall asleep, man, it's like the best sleep.
Have they ever took off without you?
No, usually somebody fires their car up, so wakes you up.
Oh, that'll wake you up. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So, but yeah.
Awesome,
it's
dude.
Pretty interesting.
Yeah, we all have to have our Zen moments, right? Whatever that may be.
Yeah. Well, what's funny is I told my wife, I said, this year's my last year, My kids are starting to want to race go-karts and things like that, and I'm just going to give it up. And she goes, you can get rid of one of them, but you're keeping the other. And I'm like, why? And she's like, because you need it. And I'm like, well, I guess you're right.
So you're racing too. What are you racing?
So I race a car. It's called a factory stock, which mainly it's supposed to be entry-level class. I've been racing since 1995. So, but it's not entry-level class anymore. It's been around about 15 years. Raced big money in that class, $10,000, $15,000 races in that class. Right. Then I also have a car that's an IMCA stock car. Bigger motor, more adjustments, more expensive tires. You can kind of travel around more with that car. So yeah, last weekend I raced a stock car. This weekend, tomorrow I'll race a stock car. Next week will be the factory stock. So wherever the money's at, I try to go if I can.
So that's your resiliency. That's what helps you. Stay good. Or helps.
Yeah,
you.
And
for sure.
This last year we bought a diesel pusher motorhome. Like, my wife and kids usually don't go with me because it's just they're not, it's hot out there. And so I bought a big motorhome, and now they go. We go to Louisiana, Iowa. We travel all over. Last week we were in Oklahoma. Took the motorhome. Kids get, awesome. It's made it really nice to have my family there. So
yeah, sweet.
Yeah.
Well, brother, is there anything else you want to add? We start wrapping up.
Man, that's really it. I would leave it with this. No matter who you are or how old you are or how young you are, just pay attention,
Right.
It'll sneak up on you, and your life at home will sneak up on you. Mm-hmm. And if you don't address it and watch it, you can get destroyed pretty quick. And I'm not saying I'm the most mentally stable and strong person, but I think I've been through some stuff and I've got some pretty good resiliency, but it's still hard. It's hard, man. If you don't have some of that, you will find yourself as a statistic.
Yep.
And we don't want that. So talk to somebody, call me, call you, whatever you need to do to get a hold of somebody.
The resources are there, man. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
The resources are there. Like, hopefully this, like stuff like this, and just getting out and get educated, man. It's becoming more and more available, right?
Yep.
Where about those resources. The resources have been there. We just didn't know how to access them, other than through training or whatever. So, and that's what Free Burn and all, there's several other groups that get out there and do what we're doing right now. But it's all about the resources, man.
What, I guess another shameless plug, the program you went through was what?
3FTL.
Yeah.
3 for the love.
Mine was Mighty Oaks.
Yep.
And I remember you saying life-saving, right?
Well, that's when everything changed for me, dude.
Yeah. Like it changed your life.
Yeah.
For me,
I probably went, I think by the time that I saw you, I don't remember if I was in 3FTL by then. I started going through this crap again in September, not to jump back into my stuff because you've already heard it. But September is when I started going through it, and it went all the way to November before I went in and got with 3FTL. It was at the end of November. So there were several months there that I was just basically on my own, dude, you know?
Yeah.
And just wild times, you know?
Yeah.
Just off the chain. And then once I got with 3FTL, I got with the right counselors, vetted doctors.
Yep.
It was life-changing, man. And that's where
that's important to find the right place too.
Yes.
Yep. Yeah. So I went to kind of the same deal. I found myself, I was drinking, man, like crazy. And this is after therapy and after all this stuff. This is, a year or so ago. I was drinking a 12-pack a day. Yeah. I wasn't, and it was like I wasn't getting drunk. I was just drinking. Like, I don't even understand. I was just drinking.
Yeah.
Got to where I remember pulling up to my house. I live on 11 acres. I have a nice house, nice shop.
Yep.
All the things that, someone wants, right? And I remember pulling up to my house and thinking, man, like, I am not happy. Like, none of this makes me happy.
Right.
Like, I could do without any of it. And I remember I'd won a race like the week before, and my wife, she was like, so are you excited? And I'm like, it didn't really do nothing for me, which was really weird, right? Because that's what the goal is to win the races.
Sure.
So I kind of put all that together, and I was like, man, I gotta do something. I gotta go somewhere, and I need to go somewhere where I'm away, where I'm not going during the day and coming home. I need to be somewhere secluded. And that's when I got with Joe Collins and found the Mighty Oaks Foundation, and man, life-changing. I've never heard stories from, you take the baddest dudes on the planet, that's these dudes that are teaching. They're not counselors.
Where are they at? Where's Mighty Oaks at?
There's one in California. There's one here in Texas.
Okay.
Just get on there, Mighty Oaks. I think it's .org, and you can find them.
Yeah.
Amazing story about Chad, the guy that started it. But the story, like, when you go there, it's not like you have a counselor sitting in front of you trying to make you better. Right. These guys are Black Hawk pilots. They're infantry. They're snipers. These dudes they're bad dudes.
Right.
And then you hear their stories and you go, I relate, man. Like, me and you are the same. Mm-hmm. So when you can relate with people that are a lot like you,
yep,
it really helps. It just helps bridge that gap. And then just
you're not alone anymore.
Yeah. The program is like magic. Like the second day, it all starts. You're like, okay, what's going on here? Y'all got something coming through the air vents that are making me feel weird. So, yeah, life changing, man. It's awesome. So, like I said, anybody, my name is Billy Vest. You can find me pretty easy.
Yep.
Text me, message me, whatever. I'll get back with you, get you fixed up.
Yeah. If you need to get a hold of Billy, contact us, and we'll get you.
There you go.
We'll get you in touch with him for sure.
That's it.
Yeah, bro. That's awesome, man. I'm glad that you are on this side of your journey. That journey never ends, right?
No, it don't.
But it's better to be on this side of it to where you're on the good healing side of it. I guess if that makes sense.
Yep.
So
absolutely.
That's where I'm at, and I think that you're probably in the same place as I am.
Yeah.
Yeah, bro. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for sharing.
Thanks for having me.
You bet, dude. Looking forward to future stuff, man.
Yeah, let's get it.
Yeah,
I'm busy. You know that. But
I know you are. I've been picking at you for a year now, bro.
I know.
I'm going to get you eventually. So,
I know.
Yeah.
This racing's about over, so
yeah,
we're going to kick it up a notch in this mental health. So
life happens. I know how that goes.
Yeah, I hear you, man. So
yeah.
Well, yeah, appreciate you, dude.
Yeah, thank you for coming on. Just real quick, I want to tell anybody that is out there that is struggling or you're having thoughts of suicide or just need to talk to somebody, 988 is the suicide prevention hotline and crisis hotline. And again, if you don't want to call them, get in touch with us, Freeburn 2023 on Instagram, Facebook, all the platforms basically. And Yeah, man, we'll find the right resources. It's guys like Billy. If I can't find you the right resource, we're going to get together and we're going to find you the right resource, whatever that may be. So that's what it's all about. It's about networking and building those resources. So with that being said, thank you, brother. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
I can't wait till the story gets out there and people start listening to it. It's going to be awesome.
I know, man. It will. Thanks for all you do.
Yeah, man. Thank you for what you do. Let's keep plugging.
Right. Yes, sir.
All right,
See
brother.
you.
We'll holler at you. Thanks for tuning in to the Freeburn 2023 podcast. If you or somebody you know is in crisis, reach out to the Suicide Crisis Lifeline at 988. Or if you're looking for counseling resources, contact us at freeburn2023@gmail.com. We'll do our best to get you to where you need to be. Let's keep burning that stigma, one podcast at a time.